Petzler, and I'm a registered dietitian for the University of Rhode Island SNAP Ed program. We went shopping at Job Lot to buy some ingredients for 2 fancy, frugal, and fit recipes that are going to help us make a healthy My Plate meal. As you may know, we have a guide for healthy eating called My Plate that has 5 food groups on it. As we go through the cooking today, I'll show you how each of our ingredients fits into our My Plate food groups. Let's get cooking. I have my skillet warming up on the stove, and as with many of our recipes, we're going to start off with some olive oil. I prefer extra virgin olive oil. You just have to make sure that your heat isn't too high because you don't want to burn it. 1 tablespoon of olive oil is all you need, and I always recommend measuring oil because it's really easy to put in too much. The next thing we need to add for our pasta with greens and beans is some minced garlic. Now I prefer to use jarred because it's very convenient, but if you prefer fresh, that's fine as well. You're just going to cook for about a minute until you can smell the garlic cooking, but you just want to be careful not to burn it. So as soon as you smell that garlic, we're going to add a few more ingredients. First, we're going to add either canned spinach or any other kind of green. Now today we're using collard greens. You can use collard greens, you can use chard, kale, spinach, anything you prefer. We're also going to add a can of diced tomatoes. I love keeping diced tomatoes in my cupboard because they're very convenient, and many times of the year you can't get really good, fresh, yummy tasting tomatoes. So we're just going to keep stirring these all together, and this is going to make a nice sauce for our pasta with greens and beans. Now we're going to add some cannellini beans. So as you may notice, our recipe today doesn't have any meat in it. We're still going to get our protein by adding our beans today. And as you can see, we also have lots of different colors going on in our recipe. We're also going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. Again, it's always good to measure salt to make sure we're not putting in too much. We're just going to do a ½ teaspoon of each. What I didn't mention before is that we always drain and rinse our canned vegetables, especially our canned beans, which tend to have salt added to them. So we're just going to let this cook for a few minutes until all the flavors are really mixed together. And then we're going to add our pasta. Now our pasta we've already cooked ahead of time, and that's a tip that you can use at home. If you're not going to have a lot of time at the end of the day to prepare your dinner, you can cook your pasta the day before and throw it in right at the end. And as usual, we're using whole wheat pasta, which has more vitamins, more minerals, and more fiber than white pasta. So far, we already have some of our different food groups in our recipe today. We have our protein from our beans, we have our vegetables from our tomatoes and our collard greens, we have our pasta from the grains group, and then we're going to add our Parmesan cheese, which is going to be our dairy. So you'll notice we're only missing one group, which is fruit, which we'll get in our next recipe. So let's go ahead and add the last ingredients. We're going to add our cooked pasta. And we're going to add our Parmesan cheese. Again, always a good idea to measure your cheese. It's an ingredient that most people love, but that we tend to go a little bit overboard on. So we're going to measure out a ½ cup. And that's it. We're basically just waiting until everything is warmed through, and then we're ready to serve. Our next fancy, frugal, and fit recipe from Job Lot is a yogurt parfait. We need some whole grain cereal, some kind of fruit. We're going to use canned today, but you can also use fresh or frozen, and some yogurt. Now I like to use plain yogurt because it doesn't have as much added sugar in it, and you're going to get the nice flavor from the fruit, but you could also use vanilla if you'd like. It's nice to start out with a nice clear cup so you can see everything in your parfait. And we need about a cup of yogurt. We're going to put half of that in. We're going to layer in some of our fruit. So today we have canned pineapple and canned mandarins. Again, with canned fruit, we're always going to rinse off that liquid to make sure that we take off any extra sugar that might be in there. We're going to add a little more yogurt on the top, and then we're going to top it off with some whole grain cereal. Now, the only way to know for sure if you have a whole grain cereal is to take a look at the ingredient list and make sure that the first ingredient listed is a whole grain. So in this case, it says whole grain wheat, so we know that this is a whole grain. We're just going to sprinkle a little bit of this on top, and you have a healthy dessert, breakfast, or snack. All right, so let's take a look at our meals here. Here we have our pasta with greens and beans. Remember, that has 4 different food groups just on its own. We're going to put a healthy portion on there. And then we have our yogurt parfait, which is going to complete our My Plate meal. So again, in the yogurt parfait, we have the yogurt from the dairy group, we have the cereal from the grains group, and we have the fruit from the fruit group, and we have the rest of our groups from our pasta dish. Now, you could have this whole meal for about $1.50 per person, so it is possible to eat healthy without breaking the bank. Fancy, frugal, and fit recipes to fit into your life.